It's time for Mornings at 8 with Jonathan Mark on AM 1480 WLEA.
Oh, yes, it is time for Mornings at 8. It is about 7 minutes after 8 o'clock on a... Okay, I wasn't expecting that. On a Thursday morning. That's right, Thursday, practically Friday. One more little day, and there's the weekend, and off you go. Well, in the first place, Happy Halloween. That's right. Yes, it is Halloween, and little ones are going to be out trick-or-treating this evening between 6 and 8, I think, in most areas. So, as usual, have an adult with them or something, because it's dark, right? And it's going to be cold and windy and all that stuff. And it'd be a good idea to keep them safe, right? They are the most important thing there is the little ones, right? So keep them safe and have a nice, fun time on Halloween. There's only so much time. And there's so much this morning, I can't even, there is no way by 8:30 I will do this. But, I have to agree with Congressman Tom Reed when he calls the impeachment thing a circus. And I'm wondering, week after week and month after month, and really, if you think of it, year after year, it just goes on and on and on. And when is somebody in Washington going to stand up and say, hey, this is a sad, ugly charade? That's all it is. And that's all it's been. And that's all it's going to be, is a sad, ugly charade. And the story about the emperor has no clothes, right? Well, when is somebody going to say that these Democrats and liberals and never-Trumpers and hate-Trumpers, really the impeachment thing has no clothes? When is somebody going to say that? I mean, isn't everybody tired of it? I mean, really? Unless you're deranged. I mean, it just goes on. Oh, well, okay, fine. Let's just calm down. All right, let me see. Okay. Well, if there's a theme to this morning, I would say it's various forms of lunacy. I mean, this is just, I have nothing but really, people have gone insane. Okay, where is this? This is from Campus Reform. This being Halloween, of course. Costumes. Costumes are in the news, and they have been for weeks and weeks. This one's offensive, that one's offensive. You can't do this and you can't do that. Well, a poll finds that a majority of students want punishment for offensive costumes. A recent survey found that 51% of American university students support punishing others for wearing highly offensive costumes. And the number is even higher among Ivy League students. Now, these are probably the same people who think that the First Amendment should be done away with, and hate speech punishable by jail time and a fine, and probably being thrown in a dungeon or something like that. So, there we have it. More than half of American university students support punishment for their peers who wear highly offensive Halloween costumes. A recent poll by the College Pulse found that more than half of students do not believe that dressing in offensive costumes is protected free expression. We're talking Halloween costumes, and support the notion that those who partake in such costumes should be punished. These are Halloween costumes we're talking about here, right? The survey was conducted by asking 1,501 university students, why 1,501? But anyway, several questions regarding current events and societal norms, including, are highly offensive Halloween costumes a protected form of free speech on campus, or should students who wear them be punished? And a majority of students, as I said, indicate that students who wear such costumes should be punished, while a little teeny bit less than half say that highly offensive costumes are a protected form of free speech. So the number of students saying others should be punished for offensive Halloween costumes is even higher at elite universities, with about 6 in 10 of Ivy League students saying that wearing offensive costumes should have consequences. Okay. California students are on high alert when it comes to insensitive Halloween costumes. California, that's right, with 3 out of 5 students within the California State University system in favor of punishment for offensive costumes. Okay, so offensive Halloween costumes. Okay, fine. It's a costume. It's play. It's pretend. It's not real. Okay? Speaking of California, as I said, the theme this morning, I think, is various forms of lunacy. Jerry Brown, who was the governor of California, let me see, in the 80s, late 70s, 80s. He was also going with Linda Ronstadt. And they would sit in the Capitol in Sacramento and sit on rugs on the floor and chant and this and that and burn incense. That was the governor of California. That was Jerry Brown. Okay, Jerry Brown, I got this from Breitbart. Jerry Brown blames Trump and Republicans for California fires. Quote, "The blood is on your soul." That's from Jerry Brown. So he told Congress on Tuesday, this is Thursday, told Congress on Tuesday that President Donald Trump and the Republican Party were responsible for the ongoing California fires because of their opposition to drastic climate change policies. Now, a little break here. My family moved to California in 1961. It was Easter Sunday of 1961. It was a couple of months after Kennedy was inaugurated, right? 1961, way before Donald Trump, right? Way before talk about climate change policies and climate change catastrophe, way before that. 1961. California was on fire in 1961. There were fires all over the place constantly. The place was in flames half the time. Plus, California was undergoing a drought, which has been undergoing for probably 18,000 years. It's always under drought. There's always a drought in California, and there are fires all over the place constantly, way before Trump. So where Jerry Brown... Now, as a matter of fact, when we moved there in 1961, the governor was Ed Brown, his father. Right? Okay. Let me see. California's burning while the deniers make a joke out of the standards that protect us all. Anyway, California's burning while the deniers make a joke out of the standards that protect us all. Okay, and that was a quote of his in the San Francisco Chronicle. "The blood is on your soul here, and I hope you wake up. Because this is not politics. Yes, it is. This is life. This is morality. This is real," he said. Probably between tokes on a joint. I'm not quite sure. Anyway, so that was Jerry Brown. So it's Trump's fault and the Republicans' fault because of the fires. Now, as I said, 1961 was way before Trump. And way before, this climate change nonsense. I mean, it is total, absolute nonsense. And anybody who says different is wrong. Totally wrong. Okay, anyway. Let me see. Brown was testifying against efforts by the Trump administration to rescind California's waiver that previously allowed it to set its own emission standards for vehicles, effectively giving the state control of the entire auto industry. The administration argues that California's policy is actually worse for the environment because higher standards make new cars, which are more energy efficient than old cars, more difficult for consumers to buy. And after they pay all their taxes in California, I don't know how they could possibly afford a car. Anyway, so that's Jerry Brown. Now, when I lived in Fresno in late 70s and up until 1986. In Fresno and right in the immediate area, there were 7 or 8 military air bases. And I'm telling you, these huge tanker planes would be taking off constantly, fighting this fire or that fire or the other fire here, there, and the other place. And that, too, was before Trump and before this climate change nonsense. And these planes were so laden with tons and tons of fire retardant chemicals or something that when they took off, they would be like at treetop level because they were so heavy. And the bases were in the city. or right around the city. And they were flying so low because they were so heavy, you could see the individual rivets on the planes. And they were constantly fighting these fires. I know a guy who was a fire jumper. Really nice. I mean, really, really nice. He had some great stories. He was a Native American. And this guy had some great stories about the fighting fires. But, the fires are there all the time. All the time. Okay? This is not a new thing. Okay. Then from there, Mr. Jerry Brown, we go to a column by John Nolte. And he states in this, California's leftist utopia can't even keep the electricity on. He says, if California can't keep the electricity on, if California can't perform basic tasks like forest and brush management, if your once beautiful cities are now killing fields of human waste, needles, and the homeless, you are a failed state. California is a failed state. And he goes on. A failed state is one that cannot deliver the basics: personal safety, adequate shelter, adequate transportation, and basic sanitation. Those are the only things we need local government for, and that is all government should be for. And sane people understand that. But there are not enough sane people in California to fix a state that is almost certainly beyond repair, too far gone to ever come up with the 51% of voters needed to put sane, grounded leaders into the state capitol. He says, I am talking about leaders who will focus on the basics before they chase the unicorn of a green energy utopia, who are not willing to watch responsible home and business owners chased away by outrageous taxes, regulations, and fuel costs, but are willing to defy the environmental nuts to remove the brush and trees close to power lines. So these fires are caused by various things. There's one going on, I think, in Northern California that was caused by a tree falling on a line, and it sparked a fire. And there are other fires. Let me see. Now, I'm not quoting from him. I'm doing this stuff from memory. There's one fire in the southern part of the state that was caused by homeless people in an encampment. And what else? Anyway, but there are lots of reasons for the fires out there. He says, as I write this, millions and millions of Californians who pay outrageously high taxes are having their electricity cut off for up to a full week because, one, California can afford to give illegal aliens free health care and welfare, but not bury its power lines. And two, California can waste untold billions on green energy boondoggles, but refuses to upset Mother Earth by implementing proven forest management techniques. Apparently, he says Mother Earth would rather burn than receive a brush cut. So that's his take on that. And I don't know. There was a story recently, I think it was last week or the previous week. A 67-year-old guy has COPD, or he had COPD. He no longer does, because when they cut his electricity, PG&E, Pacific Gas and Electric, when they cut his electricity, the oxygen tank, the pump thing for the oxygen tank shut down, and he was without oxygen for 12 minutes, and he died because PG&E cut off his electricity. Not because he didn't pay his bill, but because they have these rolling blackouts. That's pretty bizarre. That's really bizarre. Okay, so, man, I sure am glad that I moved to New York. Okay, Albany isn't the best place in the world, but boy, it sure beats the heck out of California. Okay, I would say probably Californians need insurance probably more than anybody else, but we need it here too. You never know what's going to happen. You just never know. Okay, how about the Ryan agencies? Oh, hey, there's an idea. The Ryan agencies. They have offices in Hornell, Jasper, and Wellsville. They're insurance experts. They have access to a whole bunch of insurance companies. And when you come in and say, I need home insurance or landlord insurance or car insurance or anything, that's what I need. That's what I'm looking for. And they will sit down with you calmly, professionally, and say, well, how about this company right here and that plan right there? How's that? And you go, oh, yeah, hey, that's great. Good, I'll do it. So they are the best insurance company you could possibly hope for. They are the Ryan Agencies.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Eddie Garcia.
In Game 7 of the World Series, the Nationals rallied to beat the Astros in Houston 6-2. They were down 2-0 in the 7th when Anthony Rendon hit a solo homer, and then Howie Kendrick followed it up with a 2-run shot to give them the lead. They added insurance runs in the 8th and 9th. Patrick Corbin earned the win in relief of starter Max Scherzer with 3 shutout innings. Steven Strasburg, who went 2-0 in the series and 5-0 this postseason, was named World Series MVP. The road team won every game in this year's Fall Classic, and it's the first World Series title in Nationals franchise history, the first baseball title in D.C. since the Washington Senators in 1924. NBA games of note, the Suns beat the Warriors 121-110, but the big story out of this game is the status of Golden State star and former league MVP Steph Curry, who reportedly suffered a broken hand. If that's the case, he will miss significant time. Rockets over the Wizards 159-158. James Harden, 59 points. Russell Westbrook, a triple-double for Houston. And the Sixers beat the Timberwolves 117-95.
I'm Charles Payne, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Stocks falling as investors sifted through a slew of earnings reports today, with the Dow falling 19 points, the Nasdaq down 49, S&P 500 down 3. And shares of plant-based meat company Beyond Meat were far from sizzling today on Wall Street, falling over 22%, marking the end of Beyond Meat's lockup period. For the first time since its IPO, early investors can sell the stock. Now, despite the sell-off, Beyond Meat reported a much bigger profit than expected for its third quarter. Shares of Mattel spiking after hours, around 18%, after the toy maker posted better than expected earnings for the third quarter as newer models boosted demand for its flagship Barbie brand, and the launch of dolls based on Korean pop sensation BTS lifted international sales. Mattel also announcing it will be hiring a new chief financial officer in the wake of a whistleblower investigation relating to its accounting practices. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Hillary Barsky, invested in you.
Prescription products require an online physician consultation and are only available if the physician determines a prescription is appropriate. Subscription required. See website for full details and important safety information.
Hey guys, good news. The outrageously expensive little blue pill is now generic, which means you can get the prescription medication to treat ED at affordable prices. And Hims makes it extra affordable. And right now, get your first online visit totally free when you go to forhims.com/joy. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, forhims.com/joy. forhims.com/joy.
Today at Simmons Rockwell Nissan in Horseheads and Hornell, New York, you'll find brand new 2019 Nissan Sentra SV models equipped with 16-inch alloy wheels, rear monitor, push-button ignition, and cruise control for just $15,999. Shop Simmons Rockwell Nissan in Horseheads or Hornell. Simmons-Rockwell.com.
They played the Monster Mash. It was a graveyard smash.
Happy Halloween. Okay, yes. Continuing with our theme this morning, Canadian professor lost her job for telling the truth about endangered polar bears. A Canadian university has frozen a zoologist out of her adjunct professor post as punishment for saying the unsayable about polar bears. That populations are thriving, that they are not endangered, that stories about how they are being caused to starve by melting summer ice are junk science. Dr. Susan Crockford is one of the world's leading experts on polar bears and has held her post as adjunct professor at the University of Victoria in Canada for 15 years. But speaking the truth about polar bears, she fell afoul of environmental activists who have long treated the bear as one of the poster children for their Earth is doomed and it's all our fault narrative. As a result, without explanation, Crockford was ousted from her job at the university. In an interview with Crockford this week, Breitbart News asked, "Do you think you've been blacklisted for telling inconvenient truths?" And she replied, "Oh, I absolutely do." Crockford's crime was to point out that contrary to environmentalist computer projections, polar bear populations have increased, not decreased, despite global warming. What happened was that in 2007, she said, there was a prediction that when sea ice declined to about 42% below what it should have been in 1970, what it would have been in 1979, that 2/3 of the polar bears in the world would be gone. That would be 10 out of 19 subpopulations that exist. But what happened, we find from research, is that bear numbers have not gone down, but in fact have gone up by at least 16% and probably more. So the bears are thriving despite the fact that sea ice has declined dramatically. The polar bear starving because of melting sea ice has been a staple of the green scare narrative. In 2017, for example, footage of an emaciated polar bear rummaging pitifully through trash cans became a huge international story. And the video for National Geographic attracted over 2 million views. It was set to tear-jerking music and accompanied by the entirely dishonest and misleading message, "This is what climate change looks like." And in fact, as Crockford explains, this was the purest green #fake news. Starving is a leading natural cause of death for polar bears. It just happens, she says. If the polar bear was starving to death, it was likely the result of being old or sick, not because of melting summer ice. Polar bears, she says, do most of their feeding in the springtime, not the summer. Starving polar bears don't tell us anything about populations. So there you go. I don't know. I'm not a polar bear expert, but apparently she is, and that's what she says. So there you are. And let me see what. Oh, hey, 3 cheers for Air Canada. Air Canada is going to stop announcing "ladies and gentlemen" in recognition of gender fluidity. Employees will now say everybody. Flight attendants and other staff will not use the language in boarding announcements, and the company instead plans to replace the standard greetings with neutral words such as everybody, because Air Canada says they are all-inclusive. So that's definitely good news for Air Canada. Okay, fine. I will see you tomorrow at 8:05. Bye.